Okay, so there are two purposes for this video. One, I wanted to warn you that is a deliberate supernatural infiltration into our daily lives and thoughts. And sometimes, often, I think we may be completely unaware of it. And I want to share my experience and the testimonies of others that I've researched that demonstrates how we unconsciously and unknowingly let these beings in, these negative entities in, and then share the way to close the portals, the ways to protect ourselves. So there is good news, and people often find the solution more confronting than the warning. Now, bear with me, I'm not particularly familiar with using YouTube or editing videos, but I just wanted to get the message out there. So a little bit about my background. I trained as a multi-faith minister. My spiritual beliefs were that there's many paths, one truth. And I taught meditation for more than 10 years. I would have defined myself as spiritual, not religious. And I used to work with my higher self and would do spirit guide meditations and work with oracle cards. And it's my belief that I was unknowingly influenced by false light entities to set up a multi-faith training program last year. And I thought the messages were coming through my intuition, my higher self, spirit guides, and it all felt very wonderful and positive. So I did what they said, and partway through running my training was going down various truther rabbit holes, and I discovered that I was in fact indoctrinating my students into what I believe is the coming one world religion. So I'll get into that later on. Now, just a warning, if you are spiritual, not religious, like I was, you're probably going to experience some cognitive dissonance as we go through this talk. There is so much deception in the spiritual, not religious world. Some of my beliefs were that, we're all on this journey to enlightenment. We're here, we've got to raise our vibration. We're consciously co-creating the world. I did believe that there was a false light. I followed various channelers, and I felt that I could discern the good ones and the people that were channeling the true light from the ones that were channeling the false light. I was also very interested in Hermeticism and had a romanticized view of the ancient religions, Druids, Native American spirituality, all sorts. Worked with various spiritual teachers over the years, done loads of courses, tried all the different things. So that's just a little bit of background. So this isn't going to be a love and light, place a white bubble around you talk. That does not work when you're really up against it. Now, there may be lots of techniques that can be mastered on the light side if you're involved in spiritual warfare, but as far as I found out, that takes years to master, and you would need to be enrolled in a genuine, good, truthful mystery school And I think, as far as I can discover, all of them have been infiltrated now. However, there are things that we can do, anybody can do. So there, and that's what this talk is about. Yes, and I would just reiterate, be prepared for some cognitive dissonance, because when I discovered these things, it really challenged me. And I often felt like I'd been had, because of the things that I'd been learnt, the things I'd been taught by previous teachers. And that's not because they were deliberately misleading me. They were deceived. That is what they'd learnt. So let me just show you an image from a Facebook group that I'm in, and I'll read it out. So the title, White Light Protection Works. And the quote says, it apparently doesn't matter what your particular religious beliefs are. Every entity agrees that the calling upon a higher power for protection will be sufficient to keep negative entities away. They also agree on the power of the white light. This is the personification of protection. It is very effective when you visualize this beautiful light surrounding yourself, your car, your home, or whatever. And that's an excerpt from Dolores Cannon's book. I loved Dolores Cannon. I read loads of her books. So the first half of that quote, it apparently doesn't matter what your particular religious beliefs are. Every entity agrees that calling upon a higher power for protection will be sufficient to keep negative entities away. That is partially true, but that very much depends on which higher power you call on. The second part of the quote, they also agree on the power of the white light. This is completely false. Myself and many others I've spoken to and looked at their testimonies, when they've been under attack from supernatural foes, we can testify that does not work. So yeah, Dolores Cannon, I loved her. And for those who don't know her, she did this particular type of quantum hypnosis. She was using it to heal people. And when they went under, they would go into past lives. And they were having past life memories of being on different planets, perhaps being aliens. And then she also had aliens beings coming through and talking to people. And she, you know, every single encounter, she said they were good aliens. They were all trying to help us. I now think they were just the messages that they gave her were totally deceptive. But there's no way that she could have known that. This is another message that I've seen on one of the Facebook groups I'm in, and it was posted by a lady in the group. She says, a beautiful message came through to me just now. It began, never be afraid of your own power. The dark wants you to fear it because they know they could never compete with the light. So many lies were constructed to keep us small so that they could stay safe. They know that our light burns away their corruption and lies. Do not fear your own light, and do not fear the darkness, for it is weak. Any power that has to lie and manipulate to stay in power has no real power. Challenge it and see it fall apart by the wayside. People are more scared of their own power than of the toxic darkness. But as you learn to love your power and accept it, you will never be scared of the darkness ever again. I have no doubt that this lady received this message. And it's the sort of thing that I've learnt. And I'm thinking of that Marianne Williamson quote, we're afraid of just how powerful we are. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. And it's just not true. There is so much naivety And this belief is so dangerous. This lady says, challenge it, challenge the darkness and see it fall by the wayside. That will not work with an evil entity. Do not challenge it. They are way more powerful than us as soon as we let them in and give them the permissions, which we do unconsciously. We don't know what we're doing. And they have way more supernatural abilities than us. However, there is a power that we can call on, and we'll cover that later and how we do it. So I love this quote. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And most people I meet don't believe in the devil. Spiritual people, atheist, religious, Christian, whatever, they don't believe it. And in my spiritual, not religious world, people believe in negative entities, but they tend to place a lot of responsibility on the individual's vibration. So there is this belief that if you're in a low vibration or if you're in fear, you attract them. Now, that's not true. We are responsible for letting them in. We give them the permission, but it's nothing to do with our vibration. Absolutely zero. So let me just explain how negative entities came onto my radar. So more than 30 years ago, someone very close to me had schizophrenia. And if you know anybody with this illness, then you know that the person you know and love changes, and then they suffer and they're not the same personality. And my friend heard voices. I also saw my friend appear to be talking to an invisible being. And I was an atheist at that time. But being close to this person and seeing what was going on, I thought to myself, what if those voices are real? What if the voices my friend can hear are real? And later, my beliefs changed. I took this friend to various shamans, and we were told there were lots of attachments and entities, but none of it worked. The shamanic stuff didn't work. Various spiritual remedies did not work with this person. Medication did. I know that medication doesn't always work. So that was a really serious case. I was meditating once years ago, and I was always taught, put a bubble of white light around you when you're meditating. And then my teacher at the time was saying that, fear is the problem. As long as you don't even need a bubble of white light, as long as you're not in fear, then the negative entities won't come in. Well, I was meditating and I was having a lovely, relaxing meditation. I was not in fear at all. And I felt something come in. And I thought, oh, did I imagine that? Felt a bit odd. And then I forgot about it. And I was going on holiday the next day. And I was on holiday with my sister. And during the holiday, I was plagued by really dark, negative, shaming thoughts. I looked in the mirror and I was thinking, you look disgusting, you're revolting. I felt very upset and very out of sorts. I kept getting attacked by mosquitoes. My sister wasn't at all, couldn't sleep at night. And on one day we drove out to this beach and I just felt depressed, anxious, terrible all the time. And we saw a sign offering Reiki sessions. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go. I need to rebalance myself. Well, the woman that was doing the sessions, it turned out, was a shaman. And while she was working on me, I heard this loud snap and I felt something like an elastic band almost pinging off my forehead. And I flinched when she did it. She wasn't actually touching me at all. It was energetically or whatever. And as soon as I felt that snap, I immediately felt better. And she told me afterwards, well, you had an attachment, you had a negative entity. It had plugged itself into you and it was feeding off your misery and negative emotions. And it was sending me the dark thoughts. So that was a personal experience. And with that kind of entity, I think at least you know that there's a problem. It's not like the false light ones where it's very difficult to tell. And while we're on the subject of entities being out there and being a real phenomena, I remember reading an article. It was a Western journalist who took a shaman to a psychiatric ward. And the shaman, as they walked around, said that most of those people in that ward, in his village, would be trained to be shaman because they're not mad, they're seeing into the other realm. So that was interesting. There's a couple of really good interviews on Windows on the World, Mark Windows, interviewing Jerry Marzinsky, who is a psychotherapist. And he noticed working with schizophrenic prisoners, he had that same thought that I did when I was an atheist. I think these voices might be real, especially when he realized the voices had helped the prisoners get away with robberies. And he says, I was stunned as I listened to inmates reporting. I was stunned as I listened to inmates report their voices telling them which houses to break into, when the occupants were up, where to find valuables in the home, when the police were about to show up. It was the stuff which science fictions were made of. And had I not heard hundreds of such stories, I myself would not have believed it. So there is a world of entities out there, and they do represent a danger to us. So this quote I got from a shamanic website. It said, a common mistake that a beginner makes is to think that every entity is evil, and being able to discern the higher entities from the malevolent ones is the highest wisdom. I don't think that's true. I think that's really bad advice. I think it's the highest form of wisdom for a beginner to assume that anything that they encounter is evil. Because the problem is that the entities that can appear, that shapeshift and can appear as loving and beautiful, it's impossible to just know or feel it or see it. As it says in the Bible, even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. There is a way to test these entities, and we will cover that later. So there is a way of finding that out. However, if you are naive enough to be running around in the astral realms, or you find yourself there by accident, as a rule of thumb, if something has come to you unbidden, or if you've called something up, assume it's evil no matter what it looks like. And we'll talk later about how to call them out. Aleister Crowley, he said it's always easy to call up the demons because they are always calling you. So for anyone who doesn't know, Aleister Crowley was a very high-level occultist. In the 60s, he founded the religion of Thelema. He called himself a prophet entrusted with guiding humanity into the Aeon of Horus, this new Aeon, new age of Horus. And he was a Satanist. He wanted to be the devil's right-hand man. And what I found in my research is actually Satanists are much more knowledgeable than spiritual people when it comes to the astral realm and rituals and entities. So this is the spiritual experience website. It says the astral world is full of spiritual creations, but there you can meet also unkind beings and even demons. So many astral travelers use different protections for their physical bodies. So again, this is in the New Age world, the spiritual, not religious world, the shamanic world, the Hindu world, the voodoo world, the Buddhist world, the mystery schools world. Everywhere there is a general, what I found is the general belief that there are lots of dark entities in the astral, but there's also good ones, higher astrals. I don't believe that anymore. I think the astral realm is a bad neighborhood, and it's not where the good angels and the higher entities hang out, unless they're engaging in a bit of warfare themselves. So it's a bad neighborhood. astralhq.com says, when you separate your astral body, you might draw the attention of spirits or entities who reside in the astral realm. Depending on who you speak to, these demons look different. That's because they can shapeshift. Unfortunately, these demonic creatures can appear to you in a form that you already trust, like your partner or a family member. Sometimes the demon won't want to fight you. Instead, they'll try and tempt you. They come and stimulate you intimately for the purpose of swiping your energy. These entities come against your will and essentially rape you. So I'm going to pause there. That's part one, the introduction. And in the next part, I'm going to talk about feeders and parasites and pirates, and we'll go from there.